I decided to make a video centering around reasons why I think God would hide races of people from you. I thought of this video for a while, but I've decided to share it. Since people already know about the jet black-skinned people of the nature lands and no one went over there to kill them off, I feel like it's safe to mention them. You may ask, if they were real, why didn't we find them in America or Europe sooner? Well, number one, Europe is white. The people with the black skin merely have a ton of melanin, so much so that even a hint of brown cannot be detected. In fact, it protects them from harmful UV rays. This explains the verse in the Bible where a girl told King David, "Don't hate me because I am black. The sun has burned my skin." Why would God hide it from us? In the description, I will put a video of racism. It's one my mom made. Also, did you know that in 2017, there was a date and time where Native Americans were getting shot up more than any other minority in America? Did they get included in the mainstream statistics? Did their shootings go on the news? Possibly. They've taken their plight to social media. There is a protest march called Native Lives Matter, which is trying to say that Native American lives matter too. Not only, I have to specify that for some of y'all who like to twist words around, black people, white people, and Mexicans get all the time they want on TV. In America, Native Americans aren't even talked about in politics by Joe Biden, not even the Islanders. Especially not the Islanders. Do you honestly think that in 1940, if white people found out black-skinned with no hint of brown people existed, they'd be nice to them?
As the historian Matthew Fry Jacobson shows in his Immigrant History, whiteness of a different color. The surge of newcomers engendered a national panic and led Americans to adopt a more restrictive, politicized view of how whiteness was to be allocated. Journalists, politicians, social scientists, and immigration officials embraced the habit, separating ostensibly white Europeans into races. Some were designated whiter and more worthy of citizenship than others, while some were ranked as too close to blackness to be socially redeemable. The story of how Italian immigrants went from racialized pariah status in the 19th century to white Americans in good standing in the 20th offers a window onto the alchemy through which race is constructed in the United States, and how racial hierarchies can sometimes change.
Darker-skinned Southern Italians endured the penalties of blackness on both sides of the Atlantic. In Italy, Northerners had long held that Southerners, particularly Sicilians, were an uncivilized and racially inferior people, too obviously African to be part of Europe.
Racist dogma about Southern Italians found fertile soil in the United States. As the historian Jennifer Guglielmo writes, the newcomers encountered waves of books, magazines, and newspapers that bombarded Americans with images of Italians as racially suspect. They were sometimes shut out of schools, movie houses, and labor unions, or consigned to church pews set aside for black people. They were described in the press as swarthy, kinky-haired members of a criminal race, and derided in the streets with epithets like Dago, Guinea, a term of derision applied to enslaved Africans and their descendants, and more familiarly racist insults like white nigger and niggerwop.
One man said, "I'm pretty sure that Dad identified himself as Sicilian, even though only his father was from that region of Italy, because he liked the aura of danger that came with it. He thought it made him more interesting." Friends tell me that the same discussions were occurring at that time in their own households. The irony is that Mom and Dad and many others who debated the superiority of their ethnic and racial origins never saw Italy in their own lifetimes. To a young kid growing up, the argument seemed comically absurd, a joke. But in retrospect, they were also an indication of how deep racial prejudice ran. What Mom and others didn't realize was that her disparagement of Sicilians mirrored the attitude of white America toward the entire group of immigrant Italians that poured into this country. Incidents of violence against Sicilians in America bear a distinct resemblance to those that were perpetrated against blacks in the South. Even today, Americans of Sicilian descent are often stereotyped as mafioso, while THEGUDFATHER is revered as a film classic. Even by Italians, it has also reinforced the image of Sicilian Americans as one big crime family. Mon's attitude about Sicilians lives on. A sad fact of American history is that once a group is accepted, the New York Times article describes it as becoming white. That group turns its own prejudice against other immigrants. Logic would dictate that ethnic and racial groups would bond over similar experiences of bias against them, but that's not generally the case. Too many of us vent against other non-whites. Many Italians, denigrated as wops and dagos, call blacks melanin's Italian for eggplant. Likewise, Jews scorned as kikes often scorn blacks as schwarzes. It's as if we all need someone to beat up on. Some group to blame for our perceived gripes. People we feel are dirty and crime-ridden, as we were once perceived. Folks we want to keep out. Build a wall to protect ourselves from. It's as if our own achievements are not enough to sustain us. We also need scapegoats. Our dirty little secret is that we need those scapegoats as much as we claim to need heroes. Even though we came late to America, we need to feel that we're more American than groups who were already toiling here. The fact that the hated black African Americans were called black is a symbol of white culture. Even though our skin in America is not actually black, we were called black. The reason is because the color black is known as evil, bad, symbol of death, gloomy, et. White is known as bright, wonderful, a symbol of life besides the color green, which would be a symbol of the life in nature. White in America is a symbol of innocence, purity, goodness. Not everyone in the native lands has jet black skin with no hint of brown. It's not a bad thing if they all did. However,